Welcome, everyone, to Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Christ and TK joining us from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. And today on Sports Shorts, we're going to get into talking about the LSU Tigers. Right now, the point spread is what's the latest, TK, on Georgia?
17 and a half. It's kind of bouncing around a little bit depending on where you shop.
17 and a half, and we'll tell you why that point spread might be a good value if you're leaning towards one team or the other. Also, a lot of great NFL, including the Saints. Believe it or not, there was an article that came out yesterday about the Saints being 4-8, but still have a playoff shot. That's how bad the NFC South is. They've all of a sudden woke up and became the NFC East of a few years ago, where a losing team, won the division. That may happen here this year with the NFC South. But there's a big game, of course. The Saints traveling to Tampa to take on Tom Brady and the Bucs on Monday night. Will this maybe be Tom Brady's last game? I feel like we've said that for the last 3 years. Every time that the Saints play Tom Brady in that final regular season game of the year, will this be Tom Brady's last game against the Saints in the NFL? I got to believe so, especially after the year he's had with the divorce and the fact that the offense has been terrible. But who knows? Maybe since he's got the divorce, he's got a chance to renew his career and have one more and try to finish strong. Doesn't want to go out like a team that's scoring 17 points a game. But that said, we'll talk plenty more about the Saints in a little bit. Of course, coming up tomorrow, we're excited. Sports Shorts Radio that normally is on Saturday mornings from 10 to noon will now be tomorrow, just for tomorrow. We'll take over Off the Bench. So from 7 to 10 a.m., Team Sports Shorts will be in studio at Guaranty Broadcasting at 104.5. We'll be taking over tomorrow morning. So tune in to Sports Shorts Radio, download the app. We'll have a lot of fun. As Derry Beckwith, Joel Davis, Hunter McCann, Tommy Christ will all join us in studio at different times throughout the morning to talk, and some special guests we'll also have. One of those special guests we're chasing is Kevin Falk, who, oh, by the way, next Tuesday, the 6th, will get inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. We need to do this, Tommy, tomorrow morning on the show during your segment. Let's come up with top 5 LSU running backs of all time. We did it with the wide receivers a few weeks back here on Sports Shorts Daily, but tomorrow let's do the top 5 LSU running backs of all time. And obviously Kevin Falk is going to be one of those. Might be a little easier list than the wide receivers were, but we'll have some fun with that tomorrow morning. So tune in to Sports Shorts.
All right, I'm making a note here. Top 5 running backs.
Yeah, okay. Just your top 5 for
my
whatever
top
reason.
5, my opinion. Yeah. I'll throw that together, no problem.
Plus a little World Cup. One of the World Cup stories that's really interesting. It's finally starting to get some traction. We didn't really know. I didn't know about it until a few. Hall of Fame in Vegas, the College Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
That's what a ceremony is.
Even though it's the building itself is in Atlanta. I know they've been doing that for a few years. It's, hey, you go wherever they're going to pick up the tab. Let's mention this for a minute. Anthony Howard, High C. Carter. Now you got to be probably 50 years old or older to truly remember and appreciate. Now you can look up videos, you can go search, but I mean, I'm 50 years old. I remember I was 9 years old when High C. Carter was a part of the 1981 LSU Final Four team in basketball. I can remember after that as well, going to see him play a time or two. I saw him once at the PMAC, and I think I saw him once at UNO. I think UNO played LSU in the first game ever at the New Orleans, their Lakefront Arena. And I was there, and I believe he was on that team as well. So I saw him play at least twice in person. And the guy, unfortunately, there wasn't a three-point line when he was playing, or he would have scored more and been probably higher up in the record books. But he was a fantastic shooter out of Redemptorist High School in Baton Rouge, played for Coach Huckabee over there. Of course, Huckabee came on as an assistant coach eventually at LSU when Howard Carter came. His son is a starting defenseman for the United States team, Howard Vickers. Now, I believe they're calling him Vickers. I think he goes by Howard Vickers on his club team when he plays. But I think for the USA team, he's just Vickers. He doesn't use Howard Vickers on the back of his jersey. I don't know if that's a rule or his choice or whatever the case may be. But there was an article where they speak on Sundays, and he used to spend his summers a lot of times in Baton Rouge. He spent his summers with his dad, and they'd rotate between Baton Rouge and Essex, England, where he grew up. He finally came to America kind of more permanently and played on the USA national team and became a U.S. citizen when he was about 16, 17 years old. So it's a great story with some Baton Rouge ties. I mean, there's not that many people. I mean, Louisiana's not known for soccer, Tommy, and there's a kind of sort of a homegrown talent on the USA team, which makes the World Cup game against the Netherlands Saturday at 8 a.m. all the more interesting.
Well, Howard Carter played professionally over in England and in France, I want to say, for many years. I mean, like 13,
9 years.
14.
Played 9 years professionally.
9 years professionally overseas, so maybe when his kid was young, soccer was the big thing or whatever. Right. Obviously, it's the number one sport in the world. And so anyway, that's cool. But look, I remember Howard Carter vividly. I mean, that dude could score the basketball when maybe they didn't have that term back then, like you got to score the basketball. That's what he did. He found a way. The game at Georgia is one of the greatest single performances by an LSU basketball player. And there's been a lot of that when you go into Pete Maravich and Rudy Macklin and Chris Jackson. I mean, we go on and on. But Howard Carter, that was one heck of a basketball player and a really good guy. I got to meet him not too many years ago, but years after he was done playing at an LSU basketball game. He was really a good guy.
So keep an eye out. Cameron Carter Vicker is who you're looking for. He's one of the bigger, more bowed up players on the USA soccer team, a defenseman, and I played a ton against Qatar. I don't know if he came out or if he was a sub. I think he might have started and played the whole game, but he was very instrumental. Over in Qatar with their win against Iran or Iran. Don't want to get them mad at me. United States won 1-0. So a neat story. I'm looking forward to. I'll be watching that game on my phone, 8 a.m. Saturday morning, World Cup soccer. I first kind of remember, Tommy, World Cup soccer as far as when Argentina won back in the mid 80s, the hand of God play when Maradona, probably the ball hit off his hand and they didn't call it and ended up scoring a goal. I guess Maradona with Argentina was the first. I knew about Pele, but he was the first guy that I remember watching and just being enamored by. And then in 1994, when the World Cup was in the United States, I really got into it. Was living out in Phoenix, Arizona at the time, and I remember the community going crazy and watching a number of matches. And then ever since then, I've kind of been hooked. But it's been, now that I'm a big soccer guy, after I went to a Premier League game a couple months ago back in September, big soccer guy, Tommy, I've enjoyed watching the USA team, and I will be glued to the TV against the Netherlands. They're a big-time dog. I'm going to probably bet on the Netherlands because I'm such a bad gambler that I want to help the United States. I'm willing to lose money, Tommy, to help the United States win and advance in the knockout round. I did the same thing against Iran. I took the draw and the win. Figured, we were hearing reports, Tommy, that the Irani players had been threatened by maybe some public officials, some governmental officials, that if they don't win, their families were in jeopardy. I figured they'd play with a more sense of urgency. Clearly, somebody doesn't like Uncle Ray Ray because they lost. And so I thought the sense of urgency would have them playing a little better. Instead, it went the other way. And but I was glad to lose my money to help the United States win. I'm going to do the same thing against the Netherlands.
I remember Pele, and at one time he was considered the number one recognized athlete in the world, in the entire world. And then Muhammad Ali kind of gave him a little run for that when Ali started fighting in Africa and all over the world. It was, but I remember Pele, but I've never been much of this. When I was a little kid, Ronnie, you played Little League football, basketball, baseball. There was no soccer to be had, So I don't know if when I was 8 years old, I would have said, "Hey, Mom, sign me up for soccer." I don't know the answer to that because it wasn't there. But me and all my partners, we rolled through all the other sports, as little leaguers every year: football, basketball, baseball.
All right, let's move to a more modern day sport. We haven't heard much about Jaden Daniels' health this week. There just hasn't been a lot of conversation. If you remember, he finished the game banged up, including that stupid 2-point play where they should have just kicked the extra point. He gets, pulverized and had to get, had to, have help to get up and get off the field. That was twice in that game that he was banged up. Nobody's really addressing it head on if he's going to play or not going to play. And to me, silence says a lot. And so that said, right now, Georgia is a 17.5-point favorite. If Jaden Daniels doesn't play in this game, Tommy, like Georgia's going to run they're going to do what they want to do in this game. And the minute that it comes out, if it comes out on Saturday morning that he's not going to play, or they get there 2 hours before game time and an hour before game time during warmups, he's not going to play. We find out he's not going to play. That line is going to shoot up by, I would think, at least 2 points. I would think 17.5 would jump to maybe 20.5 or something like that if Jaden Daniels isn't going to play. So if you like Georgia, take it now. Maybe buy the 0.5 point, get it at 17. And then that way, if you get some real value, if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, you're going to look like the smart guy in the room. But I just look, LSU returned tickets. They didn't sell out their allotment of tickets. There's going to be 80% Georgia fans in there. They're playing for a national championship. LSU's just kind of happy to be there at this point under the Brian Kelly era. They haven't played really well offensively since the Alabama game. So there's no reason to believe they're going to turn the corner. And they were lucky to beat Arkansas. They got exposed against A&M. Like, there's no reason to think they're going to beat Georgia.
I agree. Georgia's, they're a 14-game win streak. The 8-0 back-to-back SEC. The defending national champs. Stetson Bennett, that's a great story. Walk on to national champion. As the starting quarterback. There's a lot of walk-ons on the end of the bench that win a national championship, but starting quarterback and an effective starting quarterback. If Daniels does not play, you're looking at 42-13, 45-17, something like that, maybe 45-10. So that's a big question. And if you like to bet on sports, you got to try to figure it out or get some info. Or I think what you said is pretty profound. If you really think Georgia's going to take care of business, bet it today at 17.5, wherever you might, if you can find 16.5, absolutely. Make that bet today, because it's not going to go the other way. It's only going to go up if Daniels. It's not all of a sudden going to be 14 points. So, go ahead and do it. That's probably a good move. And, of course, we'll see what happens with the line on Saturday morning. But as you said, we don't have radio Saturday morning. We got it Friday morning. But, everybody can pay attention. People know how to do that.
Also, Stephen Miller points out that the spread will, in his opinion, the spread will jump to 21.5 if Jaden Daniels does not play. And, of course, you can get Stephen's picks over there on meatandpotatoesusa.com. Craig saying Georgia's only weakness is the secondary, and JD5 still won't throw at them, so it probably doesn't matter if he plays or not. That's a good point, Craig. Look, people talk about Jaden Daniels leaving and going pro. And look, he could. We've seen players declare for the draft when we didn't think they should all the time. And I've seen quarterbacks go way higher in the draft than I ever thought they would or probably deserve to be. But there is a premium on quarterbacks. We overshoot, we overproject, we over cross our fingers on in the NFL across the board on quarterbacks. They're always looking for the next guy. There's about 10 teams that are content with who they got at quarterback. Everybody else is searching for the guy, and they're willing to gamble in a big way. I just don't really believe Jaden Daniels, if he were to go pro, is going to be a successful NFL quarterback. He just doesn't throw a good enough ball. He doesn't have enough confidence in what his vision. He doesn't let it rip. You got to be like wide ass open in order for him to throw it to you, or he's just going to tuck it and run. And as good as he is a runner, he's thin. he's going to get destroyed. And those outside linebackers and inside linebackers are just as fast as him in the NFL. So I think it would behoove him to come back to LSU, make as much NIL money as he possibly can, which probably if he comes back, as a starting quarterback at LSU, his NIL is going to be over $500,000. I have no idea if it's going to be $2 million or what, but for sure over $500,000 will be his NIL package if he comes back. And then there's no, and then he's got a whole year to work and groom and try to be a better quarterback, and then potentially could end up being, I think the ceiling for him is maybe a second-round draft pick if all just came together perfectly. But, who knows? I mean, maybe he can be have an unbelievable year, get to New York as a Heisman type guy and slot into the first round. I just don't see the skill set for him that, with the arm and now he's now 4 years into college. Like, it's not getting a ton better. He's just getting coached up better.
Well, he quarterbacks the game like Lamar Jackson. Let me explain. Jackson's not the most accurate. Jackson's the league MVP, so Daniel's got a long way to go for that. But Jackson's not the most accurate guy, but he likes to run the ball, tuck it, go. But the difference is something you said. Jaden Daniels is thin. Lamar Jackson looks like a linebacker. I mean, that dude's put together, bowed up from head to toe. So he can take a hit or two. Daniels, like you said, and Ferg Osbury was on Hold the Rope a couple of weeks ago. He made a good point about Jaden Daniels. When he played at Arizona State, guys get wide ass open, okay? In the SEC, they're not getting wide open. There's a little bit of a window to put the ball in, and that's why he ran so much early in the season. This was Verge's opinion, and obviously Verge knows football. And, because he didn't think that guy was open, but that's as good as it's going to get. Well, then as he learned and figured all that out, you start playing SEC teams every week. Then he did. But, like I'm telling you, against A&M, he did not throw one pass more than 12 yards down the field. You can't beat anybody like that.
Stephen Miller with the stat of the show. Daniels versus Texas A&M on passes over 10 yards was only 3 of 11. That's been a story all year long. That's folks have glazed over because he goes 10 for 13 on passes from behind the line of scrimmage to 5 yards. Yeah, he's a check down master. And you're right, that just does not play in the NFL. And I know Chance has one more year to frustrate LSU receivers. No question about that. I mean, look at how much, and like, it's not his fault. It is who it is. He's just playing, he's being who he is. Talking about Jaden Daniels, he is who he is, and he's the best that LSU has this year. But Booty has lost. I assume Booty has lost a lot of money this year. Now, we know he's going to go to the combine. He's going to run a big number. He's going to jump high. He's going to catch every ball. Will that be enough to bump him back to, a solid mid-first round selection like he was kind of projected to be going into the season? One combine alone and meetings that says, hey man, this guy, I don't know. I don't think so. Because he's been the great Houdini this year for LSU. He has disappeared throughout the entire season.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's lost a lot of money, but, the NFL, only one team has to decide that he can help them win. You don't need 32 teams to like him. One team says, hey, he's going to fit with us. Maybe he's a second or third receiver initially in the NFL, and then it's time to explode. I mean, it might say, look at Justin Jefferson. He went from a 3-star guy that was going to go to Southeastern. Last minute, he goes to LSU, and now he's one of the premier receivers in the NFL. So, there's a lot of upside. It's just a matter of, does it happen, and is Booty going to work hard enough, and is there going to be one team fall in love with it?
By the way, recruiting for LSU, one of the polls on ESPN, LSU currently ranks 7th for the 2023 class. Obviously, things can change over the next couple of weeks. There'll be some last-minute additions and subtractions for everybody. Right now, Bama 1, Notre Dame 2, in that deal. Georgia 3. LSU 7th, Florida is 8th in the poll. Billy Napier in his first year, just like Brian Kelly. Florida, who hadn't done a really good job the last couple of years in recruiting, finally back in the top 10 like they deserve to be and should be every year. Tennessee currently 13, South Carolina currently 15, Arkansas 16, A&M 22. Last year they were number 1. This year they're 22. And Ole Miss 23. I suspect A&M is going to be a player in the transfer portal in a giant way. With the resources that they have, with the subtractions of players transferring in the portal. Don't sleep on A&M. As frustrating as ridiculous as their program is right now with wins and losses, they have the money to weather the storm. They will always be a player with the deep pockets. Speaking of the transfer portal, not a newsworthy story, Tommy, but Northwestern State in Natchitoches has a quarterback who had a good year. I think he was second team all Southland or something. He finished strong last year, good year this year, came off the bench kind of thing. He's had a good 2 years, and he actually this year saved Brad Laird's job, the coach at Northwestern State. Last year, he had to replace both coordinators. This year, right before the start of the season, literally like a week or two before the start of the season, he lost one of his coordinators who had to quit his job and move back home or do something for some other reason. Well, this young man, the quarterback at Northwestern State in his 4th year, who spent all 4 years in Natchitoches, had a good year. Enters the transfer portal. So he's in the transfer portal and already has gotten some love from McNeese, a rival. He's gotten some love from Southern Illinois, a team that Northwestern State actually played this year. So, I mean, that's the thing that just absolutely kills you is you do a good job as a coach. You hang on to a kid. You believe in him. You cultivate him. You coach him up. You get him to a point where he can play and help your team, and then bam, he transfers with no ramifications, no issue. There was nothing, it's and look, Brad Laird's saying publicly all the right things and liking a kid. And quite frankly, Brad Laird probably owes the kid a former debt of gratitude because had the kid played poorly, he might be out of a job. So it's a catch-22. Hey, thank you for everything you've done. We were poised to put things together to have a good year next year. We're building something. Now we're taking 3 steps back and we've got to start all over again. It's frustrating right now to be a college football fan.
It really is. Just like how the coaching staffs feel. They're frustrated. Now, you mentioned McNeese football. We didn't talk about this, but the head coach there is Gary Goff. Gary Goff was the wide receiver coach for Hal Mumme at Southeastern. Okay, when you were working over there, we were doing announcing stuff. And he runs the air raid. He's putting it in at McNeese. And they won a couple games this year. It was his first year. But he's a good guy, good coach. And I'm glad to see him in the Southland.
It's the lower level schools are going to feel it worse than the big level schools. I mean, like when you're in LSU or Texas A&M, you lose a player, you probably replace a player in a similar fashion from somewhere else, or you go steal the best player off a UL's team or Louisiana Tech's team or something like that if you've got a starting position for them. It's the trickle down effect, right? It's the trickle down effect of the schools like Louisiana Tech and a UL Lafayette are going to get hit worse because it's not as big a jump from those schools up to playing in the SEC. And if you're an all-conference player or a really good player at one of those schools, the belief is that you can start and play at a Power 5 school. And of course, you're also possibly getting a 21, 22-year-old player. And the older you are, the better you are. That's statistically proven when it comes to college football. So those schools are getting picked. But then what they're going to do, they're going to drop down and they're going to steal the best players off of the Southland Conference teams. And then it just goes down and down and down. And so it's hard for the Southland Conference and Northwestern State's perennial Lamar. They're kind of the bottom dwellers traditionally of the Southland Conference. It's hard for them to get any momentum and to change the culture to build something when as soon as they do, their top 3-4 players get stolen from them and taken away. And it's a tough time right now to be a college football coach other than the Power 5 where you can get life-changing money. It's hard because you're at the mercy of players staying and going, and you got no money or NIL money to keep them at these smaller schools, and you can be out of a job because of it.
Chance puts up a good question. What is the NFL? They're going to count the last school the guy was at. Example, Randy Moss went to Notre Dame, got thrown out of school, thrown off the team. Went to Florida State, got thrown out of school, thrown off the team, ended up at Marshall. And he was always in the NFL. They say he's from Marshall.
Right.
Cam Newton first went to Florida, got thrown out of school.
It's wherever you went last,
It's
Tom.
wherever you went last.
Yeah.
Chance would be to answer that question. Although now it's different because of the portal. Those guys got thrown out of school or run off the team, or Bill Onsberger threw Stan Humphries off the team at LSU in the '80s. I mean, things happen, but it's going to be the last school. But that is a good question.
Except when they play on Monday night or Sunday night or whenever they do whenever they announce what school they went to, and they say, hey, Ronnie Rance, University of Alabama, whatever school they say, whenever they get to that point where they say then they can say whatever they want. I mean, we've seen them say, Menard High School, right. Yeah. So they can say whatever they want. The School of Hard Knocks, that kind of stuff. They'll say stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, they can pick whatever college they want, I guess, when they get to that. But traditionally, it's always the last.
There was a big movement on social media that Ohio State can't say the Ohio State anymore after getting their butts kicked by Michigan at home. So they got to drop the word "the" until later on down the road. I mean, Ohio State, they think they're up here and they're really not. But anyway.
A little LSU basketball. They play at home. The men play at home tomorrow night. That game will be at 7:00. They take on UT Arlington. UT Arlington. Just to tell you a little bit about them, they're 4-4. And they lost to East Carolina by 14. These are just teams you've heard of. They lost by 21 to Drexel. UT Arlington scored 38 points, Tommy, on the road. Lost 59-38 to Drexel. My goodness. Nevada beat them by 19 on their home court. So UT Arlington does not have a win against anybody you've ever heard of. Oklahoma State beat them by 11. Their wins have come against Southwestern Texas, Hardin-Simmons, North Kentucky. Didn't know that school existed, and Howard Payne. So this is going to be a win for LSU. The question is what the line is and how. Let's see, what's the spread here? I guess we won't know till tomorrow, huh?
Right.
We won't know till tomorrow morning because it's not out yet. But take LSU tomorrow at home. That's a bad team, whatever the spread is. All right. Well, look, we're going to be tomorrow morning. We're going to be back on the air. Sports Shorts Takeover on Off the Bench. Excited about that from 7 to 10 a.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Also, don't forget, go to brrugaroo.com, brrugaroo.com with the holidays in full effect. You want a little stocking stuffer. You want to, get a good deal in the families. You can get a season ticket. Go online, a family 4-pack of season tickets. Only $1 a game. So go ahead and get that. Plus, get you some Rougarou gear before the holidays. Get the Marucci Rougarou gear online before the holidays. That's at brrugaroo.com. Tell us about Tremonti's before we get out of here, TK.
Well, the big thing, lots of things going on here with the prime rib and the brisket and all that for the Christmas dinners. But here's the big thing. They can put gift baskets together. You got to take care of a couple people in the office or a couple of neighbors. Get a nice gift basket from Tremonti's. Then they have gift cards. You want to give some any denomination. You got to give some gifts in that office or your Friday night drinking gang. Come get a gift card, get some wine, get some whiskey, tons of seafood, tons of meat in the market. I mean, you got to check out Tremonti's, 12451 Jefferson Highway, right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. You see the phone number on your screen. Again, the holiday catering, small amount of people, large amount of people, and the gift cards and the gift baskets. That's the emphasis today. Everything is at tremontis.com.
All right, he's Tommy Christ and I'm Ronnie Rance. We'll check you out tomorrow morning on Sports Shorts Takeover of Off the Bench. Have a great weekend. Go Tigers. Go Tulane Green Wave at home, a 3-point favorite. Southern Jaguars. They got to pull off the shot.
Southeastern Lions. They got a lot of football. And all the high school guys.
We'll be back next week for more Sports Shorts Daily. Until then, have a good one, everyone.